And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus on this Monday, March 23rd. We're almost in April, and temperatures outside in the low 40s across the area. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, along with our Ag Director Bridgette Readel. And Bridgette, boy, we had a kind of a split weekend, with Saturday being the warmer day, Sunday kind of a slap back to some chilly weather. That roller coaster ride of spring continues over our area.
And will continue for a while because it is March. In like a lion, out like a lamb. So maybe in the next few days, we'll see things change a little bit again.
Yeah, we will. In fact, we've got kind of a roller coaster ride in temperatures across the much of the northern plains, including our area here. In fact, we're looking at temperatures once again approaching about 20 degrees above normal before the week is done. We're looking at temperatures today topping out in the upper 40s. Not a bad one. Our normal highs this time of the year right around 40 degrees. It's not going to feel like it, though, today with those winds out of the south. About 10 to 25, adding a little chill to the air. Then down into the lower 30s tonight. And tomorrow, a little more sunshine, and the wind's not as strong. Southeast 10 to 15, highs in the upper 50s tomorrow. And then as we head into Wednesday, we're looking at, lower 50s to low to mid 50s tomorrow, and then upper 50s, close to 60 on Wednesday. Wednesday's the pick day of the week. Then a cold front hits Wednesday evening, and that will bring in much colder weather for Thursday. Windy, chilly, and maybe even a few rain or snow showers on Thursday. Not looking for any accumulation or anything like that. And then a quick shot of some cold air coming in Thursday and Friday, with highs back close to freezing. And then we start our warm-up as we head into the weekend with 40s and 50s returning, and again, upper 50s by early next week. We've got a couple of storms on the LRC calendar coming in here end of the month, so later next week. It looks like that first one should be in the form of rain for our area, and then a stronger system on the LRC calendar coming in that first week in April. That one could have more of a significant impact on the state. Way too early to tell how, but it looks like a pretty strong spring storm heading our way that first week in April. I've had a few emails asking, is that going to impact Easter weekend? And it very well may. So kind of keep up to date on the forecast. We could have a stormy Easter weekend. We'll keep a close eye on that. But that's what the LRC has been predicting for a while now, and our medium to long range models are starting to pick up on that as well. And I was just talking with Gary today, and we are going to have our spring and summer outlook on the Jay Thomas Show on April 16th. So you want to mark that on your calendar. April 16th. We'll be on the Jay Thomas Show with our spring and summer outlook. One of the things we'll be talking about is this historic heat wave that they've been having out west in the desert Southwest, all the way up into the Rockies. And that heat, okay, we're looking at 20, some spots 30 degrees above normal. And that heat wave will, again, cycle back as we head throughout the summer. So mark your calendars, about 70, 76 days from when that heat wave started, which was last week. That would put us in early June. That, again, will probably have more record heat. And this time it'll probably spread a little further east and north into our area. So something we'll be keeping an eye on for early June. We could have near record heat with that heat dome rebuilding then. And this weather this hour has been brought to you by Progressive Ag Risk Management. So, Bridgette, something to look forward to as we head into early summer. I know a lot of people like a nice warm summer. This summer is going to be, I think it's going to be a hot one, and unfortunately areas that have been dry are more than likely going to have drought conditions continuing throughout this summer. Unfortunately, that's not great news.
Well, if anyone remembers what it was like in the late 80s, this ought to feel fairly familiar. We certainly went through a couple of years in 88, 89 that were extremely dry, very hot, and there was a heck of a crop of grasshoppers. Maybe not a lot else, but there certainly was the grasshopper situation going on. I remember that very distinctly.
How bad were the crops that year? How bad of a beating did we take?
Terrible. We saw very little hay. I remember folks having to run the combine just because that was a matter of crop insurance. There was nothing there to pick up. You know, you could run on a whole 80 before you really had hardly anything to take off of it as far as small grains were concerned. Um, it was just a year that things didn't grow very well, and pastures were dried out. That was a time that we saw a lot of herd reductions when it came to not only beef animals, but we lost a lot of dairies in the state at that point as well.
Mm.
Many smaller size, that 80 to 100 cow head, uh, you know, operation size at that point. So big changes happened after that here in this area. And it was about 5 years later that the Midwest hit a drought, or at least very close after that, the Midwest hit a big drought time as well. And then 1993 came, and it rained, and it rained, and it rained,
And
and
it
it
kept
rained, and it
raining, and
rained,
the flooding, and
and it rained, and it was
right.
really wet. And so that's why I think about when we talk about our averages on a 30-year average, it doesn't take into account some of the things that we saw before that. So interesting to note.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as you mentioned, spring weather outlook on April 16th. But before that, we will have our WDAY radio farm show. That'll be this Thursday, March 26th. And it's perfect timing. This is National Ag Week. So we'll kick those two things off together. We'll be joined on Thursday by two of our Cass County Farm Bureau Weather and Ag Assistant Ag Directors. Madison and Haley will be here helping to interview guests and direct traffic, so to speak, and be in studio with us when it comes to talking with many of our roundtables. It'll be a big day with a lot of discussion. In fact, I was building my list of questions for every hour that will be on air, from farm entrepreneurs all the way to the farmer panel discussions with folks in livestock, equipment, agronomy, and so much more, as well as financial health discussions. So there's a lot to happen. That'll be from 8:30 to 5 o'clock right here on WDAY for the entire day on Thursday, March 26th. If you've got questions during that day, and especially during today's show, you can reach us on the JLA Insurance phone line, 701-293-9000. Questions, comments, all of that is welcome. We're happy to hear you say it. And remember, that's brought to us by JLA Insurance. We're Nate Thorsrud. He's a farmer too. And there have been some big changes for the 2026 cropping year. Do you have questions about that? Reach out to Nate. Lighthouse Commodities kindly provides our live stream for today, and you will be able to watch that on YouTube, Facebook, as well as Acres TV. Acres TV, it's kind of like the Netflix of agriculture. All ag programming all the time. Download that free subscription today to be a part of it. And lastly, you can send emails, which many of you do, and I greatly appreciate, especially questions you have for Thursday's radio farm show. You can send them to me to ag@flagfamily.com, Dina's weather@flagfamily.com, and that inbox is powered by Superior Grain Equipment. They want to make sure to protect your farm's future with Superior Grain Storage, Drying, and Handling Solutions. I mentioned it's National Ag Day. That kicks off this week. And in fact, it's National Ag Week. Tomorrow is National Ag Day in particular. And there are celebrations planned with USDA, especially in Washington, D.C. There's a number of items to put on your calendar for this week. One is that NDSU's Extension Service is hosting a QPR training on Wednesday, March 26th. That is a suicide prevention seminar. It is a free webinar that you can attend. If you're curious about the link, you can email me, ag@flagfamily.com, and I'll get that link to you. QPR stands for Question, Persuade, and Refer. These are 90-minute webinars that really talk about the concerns of high stress levels in ag-related jobs and the toll that it takes on mental health and emotional well-being. If you particularly are particularly active in your small communities, ambulance squad, fire department, etc., this could be a great seminar for you. Again, the next one will be held on March 25th, and then there'll be one on April 21st as well. Also on March 25th is the Grower Meeting and Agronomy Update hosted by AgriScience Biologicals. They're doing that in Jamestown. Starts at 10:30 in the morning. It's over at the Gladstone. And you'll have an opportunity to hear from Josh O'Brien from AgriScience Biologicals, talking about peptide technology, more than just what comes in your morning collagen. And then Shannon Peterson with Anchor Ingredients has a specialty crop markets update as well. All right, just a couple of the things that kick off the week, and we'll continue to see what those are throughout the week as we go on for National Ag Week. Okay, so Dean Addison, I have some statistics for us, some guessing games, you might say, when it comes to ag in our National Ag Week.
Oh, no, Addison's going to be put to the test here.
Okay, so when you think about farm animals, which farm animal is an excellent swimmer and considered highly intelligent?
Oddly enough, I think I might know this.
Okay,
I have absolutely
any
no idea.
I'm going to guess the pig.
oink oink, it is a
Yes.
pig.
Okay.
Pigs
They
are
seem
excellent
buoyant.
swimmers.
Yes.
They seem buoyant. I don't know if I need to see my ham floating before I get to it, but sure. Maybe they didn't need the ark. Maybe they just needed to make sure
There,
that they could
see?
stay out there. Okay. Now, when we think about cows, because I'm a big fan of dairy products, how much milk, how many gallons per day can a single cow produce?
A lot.
Ooh.
We'll put a number on it.
A day?
Like if
You
you
know, I've
have a
never thought
if you
about
have a
that. A
house full of
day.
teenagers, yeah, how much milk do you think one cow could produce for your house full of teenagers?
For one day. I'm going to
Mhm.
guess a couple hundred. Addison?
I'm sorry, Bridget, can you repeat that question?
How many gallons can a cow produce of milk in a day?
Dean, what was your guess?
A couple hundred. I have no clue, though. I'm just throwing that out
I'm
there.
gonna go with like I don't know, 5.
6.5.
I win.
Oh, okay.
I was closer.
All right.
Yes, you got that one. So that gets us to about 2,300 gallons of milk per year per cow. All right, that's just a
See, mine
little
were
taste
super
of some
cows,
fun.
though. Mine were super cows. That's
Yours were
Well,
concerning.
if the
That's what
yes,
they
they
were.
were.
Yeah. Were they wearing a cape and tights as well?
They
Goodness.
were.
All right. One last thing, I thank you to Tegra, much appreciated for the invitation to attend their groundbreaking down at Falkirk for a new feed mill that they're setting up. Unfortunately, it's this Friday. I won't be able to get there, but that is exciting news coming out of South Dakota. There'll be a whole new feed mill. They'll have designated lines so that we make sure that feed between cattle versus equine don't get mixed up. And also, then they're able to transport all those custom feed blends quite a distance to service those customers. So, look, more agribusiness happening in the region. When we return, we're going to talk about one of those regional agribusinesses. We're going to talk about RAYHAWK out of Canada and the systems that they are bringing to grain elevators. In fact, they're test driving one right here in North Dakota this year as a beta test that will help prevent harm to humans, but still get our grain loaded on time. We'll talk about that when we return. Thanks for joining us on Weather and Ag in Focus, where today we figured out that pigs might not be able to fly, but they sure can swim. So catch that pork chop when it floats on by you. I guess that's the easiest way to think about it. So uh, Addison and I were laughing a little bit behind the scenes on the fact that who thought to throw the pig in the lake to see if they would float?
I just
But
want to know
by
who
God,
figured it
somebody must
out.
have.
How was this
I
figured
don't
out?
know.
Are pigs just like
Or
natural
the pig,
swimmers, or did someone like chuck a pig in a lake once upon a time and the rest is history?
did a pig float by a canoe and somebody went, oh, look at that? Okay, so it's hard to say. Now, other things that might be hard to say, your farm security. Have you checked on your cybersecurity? Some folks are buying cyber insurance, but maybe that's not what you need. Instead, I go to the fence check assessment at techsupport.farm and take a look, because making sure that your cyber activities through the farm, especially as we are seeing these farmer bridge loans coming out, you've been working on your operating, you've been taking care of your operating loan, you've been taking care of crop insurance, etc. You want to make sure that nobody else is tapped into watching that and trying to swipe your information. So again, techsupport.farm, check out the fence check assessment over there to make sure you are safe and secure. Safe and secure is a big topic of the day. In fact, we have joining us today a gentleman from RAYHAWK Industrial Automation, and I want to make sure I say it right. Is it Muaz? Did I say your first name right?
Absolutely. Sharif, you bet.
Sharif, excellent. Well, all right. Here's our topic of discussion for today, and this really ties in with the grain business in North Dakota. But first, I want to back up and talk about RAYHAWK as a company. So, what are some of the things that RAYHAWK has been developing even prior to this new automated system for loading grain cars?
So what our focus is, Bridgette, is to keep people away from the top of the rail cars. It's such a hazardous job to do. So what we do is we deploy these automation systems to be able to autonomously open up the latch, open up the lid, take cavity inspection photos inside the hopper to make sure no contaminants are present before any kind of loading happens at a grain elevator, then close the lid and close the latch and apply the seal autonomously. So nobody needs to get on top of the rail car in really hazardous conditions as well. Most of the loading happens in the wintertime, so nobody needs to get on top of the rail car anymore.
All right, let's start with, was this the idea of someone who was more of a safety officer for a business and said, maybe we don't need to have people walking on top of rail cars in the winter months when it's snowy and icy? Or was it just somehow noticed that, we don't have enough labor and we've got to start thinking about how we can do a safer method of moving these rail car tops?
Good question there, Bridget. It's a two-part answer here, because the idea kind of originated with our president CEO, Tom Bain. His dad used to load rail cars. So the idea was very close to him and his family. And in the industry and the people involved in grain elevators, one of the big things that they'll tell you is being on top of rail cars, it's very painstaking, hazardous job to do. So that's one of those jobs that nobody wants to get on top of the rail cars, because there's been many slips and fall incidents towards it, death on top of the rail car as well. So how do we make sure that people are safe? It's to reallocate the precious labor that we have towards more meaningful jobs at grain elevator facilities and automate that task. So if we're able to open these things autonomously, and things are getting very fast, the loading of the trains are becoming faster and faster. So as things as such are happening, we want to make sure that humans are safe. So if we can automate these things, that's what we're looking to do.
Okay, go ahead, Dean.
Oh, I
I've
was
got a
going
bunch
to
of questions
yeah,
too.
I was going to ask Muaz, how does this differ from other equipment that's out there that do something similar to this?
As far as we know right now, we're the only player in the game that is able to automate on top of the rail car.
Oh, great. Great.
Our focus is using vision technology with machine learning to be able to identify the latches and lids, no matter what kind of lids you have. And some of the rail cars out there are very outdated. They're like from 1960s, 1970s. And to be able to open up the latches and lids and not have people fall off from the top, that is our main focus.
That's a big deal. Some of those cars, the older they get, the more rounded the tops are, if you will. There's less places to stand safely. If you're working in snow, ice, wind, there's a lot of potential for human hazard. And it's an eerie feeling. Last year, Dean and I did some video work with one of our sponsors, and I was on top of one of their fuel transport trucks, and there's no handrails. And when you're 15 feet off the ground, and cars are even taller, there's that odd feeling of a lack of safety. And I'm sure that's probably the same feeling that many employees at elevators have when they're trying to load these as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There are fall arrest lines that are present there, but fall arrest lines, they don't necessarily do a good job. And if any slips and trips happens and the person falls off, you have to be able to get that person down within 2 to 3 minutes before the blood supply starts cutting off within their legs. So it is a safety measure there, but it's not necessarily eliminating the risk around it. So the bigger thing towards that is grain elevators are everywhere. You got to feed a lot of people, and a lot of farmers have to bring all their crops and everything to grain elevators. So what we're finding that these grain elevators, people are hard to find to employ, especially to go on top of the rail car, because nobody wants to do those jobs. Nobody wants to be in a hazardous position. So if we're able to automate that, that's what we're looking to do. And the places where we have done it at G3 and Nutrien in Canada, we're seeing our deployment success rate at 98%. So 98% of all the lids that are opened.
Muaz, I know you're at a conference today on feed and grains, but we're going to ask you to hold through our bottom of the hour news. More questions from Dean and myself, as well as from our listeners that we want to talk about. And I think because we're on radio, we're going to have to give a bit of a visual aid, if you will. I'm going to need you to descriptively tell us, how does the system work with the cameras? How do we have that infrastructure at local elevators? Those who are following the live stream brought to us by Lighthouse Commodities, you get to see it directly on the stream, so you get an advantage. But when we return, we're going to talk about this RAYHAWK system for loading and unloading rail cars much more safely. Today is a technology-filled day as we kick off National Ag Week, and we are joined by our guest, Muaz Sharif with RAYHAWK Technologies out of Canada, and we're talking about uh, a loading and handling system on grain cars that literally is opening up the grain car latches, etc. Now, I understand that Tom, one of our callers, is on the line with a question for our guest. So, Addison, can you bring Tom in for us?
Hello.
Excellent, Tom. Go right ahead.
Oh, okay, yeah. Just, I guess, kind of a two-part question. So, since this is not going to involve people anymore, this would help with OSHA, and then eventually help with insurance for all the grain elevators. But how much is this system, and is it adaptable to small co-ops? So many of them that are all over the countryside, but still loading grain cars. So kind of a several part question.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the safety aspect does take a big play towards it, as people don't need to be on top of the rail car anymore. We classify it, we satisfy all the OSHA aspect towards it, and the system costs towards it as we're looking to enter the market pretty aggressively. The system is worth around $2 million fully installed, and towards the way that we kind of categorize it, and we're trying to do it as cost effective as possible. And one thing I'll add towards it is everything is made and produced and made in America. So towards that as well, the goal is to keep the people safe.
Right.
And I think
$2 million.
Go ahead, Tom.
Go ahead, Bridgette. No, I was going to say $2 million for a lot of these smaller grain elevators. That's a chunk of change. But are there any incentives? I mean, could this be something that be I don't know, incentives? I don't know how through, but this sounds extremely important to do.
I think when you talk about incentives, if you look at what happens with you amortize that over your cost of labor, your insurance
Right.
on your employees, and like you said, meeting specific codes for OSHA as well as other safety factors, I think that actually makes a big difference. And my question then would be to Muaz, if we're speeding up the time frame to load cars, that keeps us away from getting demurrage fines from the railroad. So it's probably a money saver for us on the front end, correct?
Absolutely. The focus here is to be able to load as fast as possible and get all the unit trains back on the main lines. So then the main line has more utilization towards all the rail cars that they currently have as well. So if you take an example, these trains are coming in at, if anybody's been in the rail industry, they know that trains arrive when they want to arrive.
Yes.
So when they do, you'll be able to autonomously open up these latches and lids, I'd say within a 3-year time frame window, when we're able to autonomously operate the engines as well at the same time, to be able to do that before anybody shows up to the facility at all. So this is part of a larger piece of automation that will happen slowly and progressively in the industry, where things will go more towards automation, where you first of all, you can't find people anymore. It's very hard for people to come to grain elevators and work there as people are moving to bigger cities. But you have to feed the world. You have to feed everybody. And you have to get the product out from these farms to all the places. So if we're able to deploy automation to there, it's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it really is. And when you think about this system, can this be added on to a existing site pretty easily? I mean, I guess I would almost call it like an aftermarket addition, right? So does it require a lot of structural change to add this to your loading operations on your siding?
No, we're able to adapt to any facility. The installation that we're doing 3 installations in the U.S. right now for full systems that are being installed. One in North Dakota, which is at an existing facility at Dakota Midland Grain. another one in Minnesota at Market County Grain, and we're doing another installation south of Chicago at St. Anne at FS Grain. So both the two facilities are existing. One is a greenfield site, so we're able to adapt to any facility that is there.
The reason I found out about you was I knew about the pilot program at Dakota Midland Grain, and then I'd forgotten about the site up in Minnesota. Are those currently operational, or are they still in the installation phase?
So we're going to start off with deploying at Dakota Midland Grain. So that'll be our first installation into the U.S. Then we're going to launch Market County Grain, and we're going to launch FS Grain right after. So Dakota Midland Grain, it'll be operation and running in July. Then in August, it'll be Market County Grain, and in September, it'll be at FS Grain.
You know, I think about elevators, whether it's with your managers, your grain merchandisers, your board, if you're a cooperative, taking them to see some of these pilot programs and seeing how they look. Again, we're watching the video on our live stream that's brought to us by Lighthouse Commodities. So, Muaz, can you describe it? It sort of looks like a U shape inverted over the rail lines, and then there's a moving arm. What is the system doing? Is it's camera effective? There's got to be some mechanical parts to us. Can you kind of give us a description of how it knows how to unload or open up the latches on the grain cars?
Absolutely. So these are large gantry style systems. So we would have a gantry on before the chute is, if you have a loop track, and after the chute, where these gantry system, and you have bridges on these gantries. Think about these, these ocean kind of things that are coming down and picking up the sea can, but we're coming down and we're opening up the latches and lids. So these bridges are detecting through vision systems, through machine learning, exactly where the seal is, high security seal or plastic seals. It's able to determine to open that seal autonomously, open up that latch autonomously, and open up the lid autonomously. Then all your materials get filled right in the middle where the chute is. Then it goes into our closing gantry where the lids are closed, where the mechanical tool comes in, closes the lid, closes the latch, and applies the seal. One of the questions that we get asked, Bridgette, is it able to handle weather conditions as well, ice, snow, rain? So no problem at all. One of the things we say is, we're Canadian, we understand cold. So, minus 40, no problem at all. So what the system does is it comes down, it opens up the latch. The system itself has about 900 pounds of force. But what we do is we tone it down a little bit. We come to one side of the lid, nudge it a little bit to open it up, come to the other side of the lid, nudge it up a little bit, just like a human would do, then go in and open up that lid. So a lot of these feature sets that we have built in, our customers have came to us and asked us to put these features in. So these are imagine being in like minus 10, minus 15 kind of weather trying to load in the wintertime. It's not a fun place to be, and especially when you're also facing winds as well, 20, 30 mile an hour winds as well at the same time. So if you're able to remove the person from the top and the system can open these up for you, and all you have to do is load the rail car, we're happy to help and do so.
Oh, I would say that people are very happy to see this type of a system. Those lids, especially if they're frozen down, if they've got some ice buildup on them, some snow, they're heavy and it's slick when it's in a rainstorm. And just what you said, those cars can arrive at any time, holidays, weekends, and if this can actually have the effect of opening and closing those lids for you without extra people outside doing it, the labor cost savings is huge, and also less potential charges for demurrage if you're running late and filling that train. So this has been an excellent system to look at. Muaz, where can people find you? I know we've been able to watch on the live stream, but where would they be able to go look for more information from RAYHAWK if they're curious about this system?
Absolutely. Our website is there at www.rayhawk.ca, RAYHAWK.ca. And we're more than happy to talk to anybody that is having labor issues, not able to get people to the elevator for loading, as well as for automation as well to keep people safe on top of the rail car. We're here to serve the industry.
And Muaz, we've got one of our listeners, Kevin. He's on line too. I believe Kevin's got a question for you. Kevin, go ahead.
This sounds amazing. I wish more of this would happen in a lot of industries, but now this is probably off cycle. So the grain is weighed as it comes in off the trucks. It's put in the elevator. How do they keep from overfilling the grain or the track cars? Is it reweighed before it comes down, and then only so much goes into each opening? I've overfilled a grain car with rock one time, and I go, well, I had no way of telling. So I know it's a weird question, but is that all part of the elevator or your system or what? Because being on top of either a grain truck or stuff, and you can't see through the dust, and you talk about your cameras, and you know what? Back in the day, it was just eyesight. There might be little levels of something you could go by, but I'm just curious about that end of it.
For sure.
How full to fill the grain cars or the actual, you know what I mean, train cars. And I go, okay, is that an elevator thing or your thing or the camera's capable? I would love to go and work on a train car again. I mean, the height didn't scare me, but there was a lot of scary moments.
Yeah, there are a lot of scary moments on top of the rail car. But to answer your question there systematically, it's the weighing happens all at the grain elevator side of things. It's batch weighed. A lot of these places are batch weighed, or they have scales on the bottom. So they know exactly after you read the rail car ID of it, how much volume bushels of material needs to be getting into the rail car. So that is done. But what our system comes into play is we take stowage exam photos. So grain inspectors who would go on top or perhaps have a camera system to be able to see what's inside, any contaminants, they don't need to do that anymore. So our system has a capability of stowage exam to make sure no contaminants are there. So you're able to load all the material in there before. Then we close it up and apply the seals on that rail car. And I'm trying to remember the other parts of your question there. Words.
I think you covered quite a lot of it, Muaz. And you're exactly right. You know, there's not a scale on those cars on the rail that's measuring it. A lot of it's done in those batch loads, et cetera. And so, you know, they do know how much they're filling. It can be quite dusty depending on the product. And, you know, I would imagine this works for fertilizer just as well as it would for grain if you're loading fertilizer cars too.
Yep, that is correct. We're able to adapt to different industries. And I just remembered the other questions regarding dust on the cameras. So we have technologies, the material that the cameras, the boxes that they sit in, it is dust proof. So, and our system has been deployed, verified, and vetted by our customers in Canada in different conditions and market where dust is not a problem for us. Temperature, rain, and things are not a problem for us. And so we take a very systematic approach towards operation, and we want to be outside. We want to face the weather to be able to run our system.
That's awesome. This has been a fabulous discussion. So thank you so much for joining us today. In fact, I already just sent you more questions and so forth in an email. So we'll talk again very soon. Appreciate you joining us today.
Appreciate it, Bridgette. Thank you, Bridgette. Take care.
Thanks.
All right. Very interesting. That's the wave of the future. I love it. That's well off and definitely help the industry for sure. Well, when we come back, we're going to be talking about a roller coaster ride of temperatures, not untypical for March. Is there any snow back in the forecast, though? We'll have those answers for you coming up right after the break. And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. Temperatures outside in the low 40s, and we should make it up into the mid to upper 40s today. It is a little on the breezy side, though, with those south winds gusting over 25. And we're going to see kind of a breezy day today with temps in the 40s. We'll be in the 50s, though, for Tuesday and Wednesday, so we warm things up. Pick day of the week looks to be Wednesday before the bottom falls out Thursday and Friday, with temps dropping back into the low 30s. There is a chance for a few snow showers on Thursday. I'm not worried about it in regards of any accumulation. That's not expected. And then as we head towards the weekend, we warm things back up into the low 40s on Saturday, 50s on Sunday, and 50s to near 60 for early next week. So that up and down trend continues. And as we said earlier in the show, LRC has a couple of spring storms on the horizon, one at the end of the month and then another one that first week in April. The second one, the first week in April, I'm a little concerned about, is that is expected to have more of an impact on the state. Too early to tell exactly where the winter part of that storm will be and where the spring part will be, but we'll iron those details out. We do know that that is on the horizon, so something we're keeping an eye on.
Well, again, March will bring us lots and lots of changes that we were or were not even close to expecting. We'll just see what they look like. All right, other changes that might be happening. All right, folks, many of you are familiar with CRP. No, I didn't say CPR. That's where we need a dummy on the floor and chest compressions. Instead, CRP, the Conservation Reserve Program. So this was a program that came into fruition for set-aside acres. I remember the biggest talk about it happening in the late 1980s. And at that time, what we were trying to do was get rid of some of the surplus commodity grains that we were raising by paying farmers, or landowners more importantly, by paying the landowners to take that land out of production so that we were not taking a crop off of it to flood the market with supply. And by the land that we were looking to do that on, it was highly erodible, less productivity on it, those types of things. So the question that's going on right now amongst those in agriculture is, do we need to re-examine where we are with CRP? Today, as established by the 2018 Farm Bill, the limit on the acreage, so it's an upper cap limit, has an enrollment cap of 45 million acres. Should it be higher? There has been little justification or explanation of why there is a 45 million acre cap, but history teaches us that farmers under economic and market stress tend to overproduce, usually at the worst possible time. And the primary reason is that the reality that many farmers are motivated to maximize production, to push the operation to make ends meet, etc. And it's here that CRP could be useful and beneficial in certain and chaotic times. Could be a bit of an off-ramp for that downhill descent of overproduction. So we're not entirely sure if this is a discussion point that will go forward much more than where it's at right now. Right, there's a lot of technical and legal matters that need to be discussed, consequences as well. But it has been the cornerstone of ag policy since the 1985 Farm Bill. And it is certainly an up for discussion situation going on right now. Additionally, as things that are going on, if you are in southern Minnesota and you want to know more about manure, well, University of Minnesota is looking for you. They are partnering with farmers in southern Minnesota who are interested in conducting on-farm research. And these opportunities are part of a collaborative effort with the Minnesota Department of Ag that's focused on improving and promoting manure management and best practices that are not only regional but animal specific. For example, evaluating the interaction of a rye cover crop when coupled with fall-applied liquid dairy manure and corn silage rotation, or swine manure for corn grown for grain. If you want to participate in those, send me an email, ag@flagfamily.com. I'll get you the right links and how to apply.
All right, well, that'll do it for Weather and Ag in Focus this afternoon. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Don't go anywhere. The Jay Thomas Show, it's coming up next.